Welcome to the 13th Traverse in the Sahyadri webinar series. Today we're going to take you through the Konkan Salt forts all the way from Mumbai to the border with Goa. There are some 35 forts built along the coastal line. You can find the HD quality videos on my YouTube blog, ultrajourneys.org. Don't forget to subscribe to both, and a 10-minute preview gets posted on Insta TV and Facebook. Starting at the top, just south of Mumbai, we have Undri Kandri off the coast, built on islands. I did not explore those ones as you need to hire a ferry or a boat, which is a little expensive as a solo explorer. Also, I think they're quite encroached by fishermen. Similar for Kublada on the coast itself, which you don't see much of remains, just a couple of raised platforms, which are again used by the fishermen to dry fishes. A few inland forts are there, like Ramdarne and Sagargat, a bit lesser known. And then proceeding along the coastline, we have Sarchakot and Kolaba, two beautiful forts which are in the sea, but you can walk to them during the low tide of the coastline of Alibag. Further south, we come to Revdanda, Korle, and then inland again there is a lesser known fort of Birwadi. Coming back to the coast, we have Padmadurg and Samarkand and the famous Janjira fort. Okay, starting, very less is known about Sagar Fort, inland. King Chhatrapati Shivaji won this fort from Adil Shah in 1660 AD. Sagargat was one of the 23 forts which were handed over to the Mughals in the Treaty of Purandar. It was one of the 16 fortified posts that were given to Kanhoji Angre by Balaji Vishwanathan Peshwa in 1713. Prisoners sentenced to death were said to be hurled down from the monkey point of the fort. Okay, so here we can see a beautiful view from the top of Sadargat, which is a pretty flat, vast expanse. Here there is like a kind of not just a water reservoir, but a small spring is there that releases water inside. Here you can see some of the walls midway the hill that separates the fort from the rest of the hill. Here you can see the water source that keeps the tank full. You can find some old remains. Cannons are there, as well as some old pottery here. A small bust of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj is there. Far away you can see there the edge of the plateau with a small flag. And here we have a gentleman on the left side in the blue t-shirt who joined us for the hike, for this and the next hike, who was living nearby and was following us on Instagram. Some yummy dry fruits and homemade food here we enjoyed on top of the fort. Can find some old rocket stones here also, beautifully painted. Next, Ramdarna. I think Ramdarna is the only fort out of my 200 where I did not find any history online. It's not much remaining there. It's also a land fort, pretty close to the coastline. On the way to Ramdarne, it's a pretty big hill. You have a lake midway the hill. You also have a small temple, and then behind the temple on the edge of the hill you can still see some remains here of a foundation, but mostly completely overgrown by the jungle here. From the top you can see the reflection of the sun setting down there on top of the ocean, so we're pretty close to the coastline here. We're looking around for reservoirs along this steep slope, but not able to find any. Voila, and here this is on the way down again. We are running down from the hill while the sun is setting over the Arabian Sea. An amazing feeling, actually. Next in the list is Kublada, not to be confused with Kolaba, which we'll see later. Kublada fort was meant to protect Undri fort in 1659 when Shivaji Maharaj started building Kandri. Fort Kublada played a major role as offshore base for men and materials. Also, this was to protect any invasion on the land from British and cities. Later, since the fort became more vulnerable to attacks, this was abandoned and the base was moved to Kolaba Fort off the coastline of Alibag. Voila, here again we reached towards the evening, so you can still see some very low platforms there, which must have been the foundations of the fort, which are now used by the local fishermen to dry their catch from the sea. Beautiful sunset views here on the Arabian Sea. Next, pretty more famous one and in good condition is Kolaba Fort. It's an old military fortification situated in the sea at a distance of 1 to 2 kilometers from the shores of Alibag. The fort was chosen by Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj to be fortified after the whole of South Konkan became free. The work of construction of the first fort started in March 1680, and in 1962 he strengthened and fortified Kolaba Fort to make it one of his chief naval stations. The previous night we reached Alibag beach after scanning the entire Mumbai north and south region in the previous traverses. We were pretty exhausted again, driving late at night and climbing almost 10 forts per day now. So it was time for some yummy calories here. Pizza in a pretty touristic place, Alibag beach. And finally we found like a burning tree on the beach, perfect place to settle down. The sound of the waves, the stars on top, and then a nice campfire. Amazing night. Let's take a small video here. Welcome to Alibag beach, our campsite for the day. We settle down on soft white sand here in front of two forts which we'll be covering tomorrow during the low tides, during sunrise. Have a nice ambient campfire here. We just completed the southern hill forts south of Mumbai, and we'll be now proceeding from Alibag down south to the border with Goa to finish a good number of some 30 forts. Very nice place to settle down for the night. Okay, and then the next morning, equally beautiful, the sunrise. And as luck would have it, we have a low tide, so we are ready to go and walk towards Sarjikot and Kolaba forts. First one, while walking from Alibag beach to encounter this Sarjikot. The walls, the fortified walls, are still standing high there, built on a small kind of protruding hill. And you can see the water level comes quite high during the high tides. Here a small, it's not a big fort, small interior section, but in a pretty good condition. I mean, very thick fortified walls, water reservoirs there. And here you can see a view of the same fort from the back, from the seaside, as we walk towards Kolaba Fort. Voila, on the other side we have then Kolaba. In the olden times seem to have been connected here by kind of a raised platform. Which is now kind of destroyed. Here we're standing on top of Kolaba with Sarjiko and the Alibag beach coast in the distance. You can find some big water reservoirs, so must have had capacity for a large number of troops here. And quite a few buildings also are still there inside the fort. Here we walk back to Alibag beach. The water is already rising now. Walking back from Kolaba Fort during the low tides to Alibag beach. The water. Voila. And then after biking again further south, we come towards Revdanda Fort, located at the mouth of the Kundalika River. Earlier the fort was guarded on three sides by creek water. This fort was built by the Portuguese Captain Such and completed in 1524. It was in control of the Portuguese till 1806 when it was captured by the Marathas. Finally, it was captured by the British in 1818. Voila, we can see one high rising tower in the interior parts of the fort. Some old building also, a wall standing. Now a lot of palm trees are growing in and around the fort. Here an top view of that intersection, that tower. And the most beautiful part, of course, of Revdanda is the sea-facing fortified walls, palm trees sticking out at the skies. And after 500 years, amazing to see the walls still standing tall after being battered for 5 centuries by salt sea waves without use of any modern day cement. It's amazing how our forefathers were able to build during those days. During, I guess, the sagging of the beach, some of the walls have been moved a little and broken. Voila, you can see the heavy salt erosion on the base of the fort. Next is Corley Fort, which is just opposite Revdanda. It's known in Portuguese as Fortaleza do Morro de Chol, is a Portuguese fortification in the town of Corley. It was built on an island which gorged the way to the Revdanda Creek. It was meant as a companion fort at Chol, and at this strategic position, the Portuguese could use it to defend their province, which stretches from Corley to Bassin. Here some beautiful scenic fishing hamlets and the Konkan coast there, full of palm trees and hills close to the coastline as we drive towards the base of Corley Fort. Here we are seeing the white sands of the coastline as we go to a small lighthouse there from where we climb up to the fort. And here then the kind of long stretched hills on which a lot of remains are found, buildings and fortified walls of Corley. You can also see several big cannons on top of the fort and beautiful views on the river there, which the fort was overlooking and defending. You can see some Portuguese inscriptions here relating to the origin of the fort. Voila, and here a beautiful view again from the front tip of the fort on the Konkan coast there, like the typical signature U-shaped beaches and a lot of palm trees and greenery with foothills raising out to the beach. Voila, as we proceed further south in our minimalist gears with just 10 liter on the back, we come across some more maximalist bullet bikers, foreigners who are also traveling the coastline, a little bit heavily loaded in my opinion. Next on the list is Samraj Ghats, aka Danda Rajapuri, is situated on a hill southwest of the seashore of Murud village and is near the famous fort Janjira. It was built by Shivaji Maharaj to keep an eye on Janjira and to cut off its access from the land. Samrajghat was used as the main base for the attacks on Janjira. Janjira was under the control of Sidi, who are Habshi or Abyssinians. So as we explored this particular fort, we found almost nothing, just a barren hill with a lot of dense jungle. We climbed through vegetation and thorns there, but only found like some base structures here, walls remaining. Here also under the forest, a couple of foundations. Apart from that, nothing much left of Samrajghat. Voila, and then finally coming to a beauty. Janjira is an Arabic word. It means island. The island is situated 3 kilometers off the coast near the village of Murud. The cities ruled this fort till recent times. Nobody could conquer it. Shivaji Maharaj had conquered many forts but could never bring this one under his control, as per Wikipedia. A couple of guys told me otherwise. Due to these cities, the Mughals could sustain in the Sahyadris and the English could trade freely over the seas. As Marathas were hostile to them, they had to face the three. Here we see a coastal view of Janjira, 3 kilometers out there in the sea. Huge walls, fortified walls, as you can see. And here the ferry boats which take tourists to this pretty touristic place. Here we can see the entrance, which simply falls into the sea. It's only accessible by boats, and extremely high walls here, at least some 60 feet I guess height. Voila, here is the entrance, which gets revealed in the low tide. Majestic walls being fixed, new walls fixed on the entry gate. And on top, several of these watch gates, watch openings on the surroundings with big cannons. Some beautiful trees here. The fort inside is quite big. Here another view as and one of the boats which is waiting for visitors near the entry gate. Here you can see a top view from the fort with the coastline in the back. So a lot of buildings all kind of fallen down in the ruins, but this must have been like a brimming settlement inside, pretty large and big water body, so enough resources to survive. Voila, another beautiful view from these holes, I guess, from where they kept watch and fired to enemy ships. Voila, thank you. This was the first port of the Konkan fort, stretching out from Mumbai to the coast of Goa. Do not hesitate to check my blog ultrajourneys.org, where you can find the entire Sahyadri series as well as lots more. You can subscribe to any new updates. Also check my YouTube channel, where you'll find all webinars on the Himalayas, minimalist hiking, alpine style, learn to navigate, read maps, and much more. See you guys tomorrow for the second part of the Konkan coast.